Hey, Scarefest fans, it's Joe Lewis of Bonehead Weekly. I want to talk about a movie that's been around for 38 years, 37 years. 1975's Jaws. Spielberg probably made the first summer movie of all time. It was the first movie to make over $100 million, and it blew everybody's mind, and everybody couldn't go back into the water. And it was what the making of that film was well documented. I'm not going to talk about it on here. There's tons of documentaries, tons of different people who have much more knowledge about it than I do, and I know a lot. I mean, I've interviewed Carl Gottlieb on Bonehead Weekly. He wrote the adaptation based on Peter Benchley's book, which was also a bestseller. Huge, huge, huge Jaws. Jaws was like Star Wars before Star Wars. I love Jaws. Tarantino says Jaws may be the best movie of all time, and what he means by that is not that's the best movie of all time. It's just it's a geek thing, cinema geek of like movies like Jaws and Star Wars and Raiders. It's the best one of those. It's not cinema like Citizen Kane or what he would probably think Pulp Fiction. They've done a 3D conversion on it. Now, I am not really a fan of 3D. I don't particularly care for it. There's a few movies that I have seen that are totally different experiences seeing on 3D in the big screen. I think that Avatar is one of those movies. I defend Avatar by saying if you saw it in the big screen in 3D, it was a different experience watching it on TV on your home. Same thing with a movie called Gravity. But for the most part, 3D doesn't help most movies. Well, they've done a fantastic job on this. I saw it Saturday with a packed house almost packed. It was great to see it on a Saturday night. I loved it because it's a movie that I've seen. I have no idea how many times I've seen it. I have no idea. I love it so much that my son's name is Quentin. I call him Quint. That's where his name comes from. That's how much I love Jaws. So to watch it again for the first time I've ever seen it on the big screen, but also in 3D, it's hard. You don't want to say it's a whole new experience, but in a way it is because you're kind of lived in with it. The 3D conversion on this is amazing. The movie has never looked better. In fact, they didn't even bother. It never looks better that it still looks like a movie. The night shots are still grainy. And the shooting stars in the back that looked awful beforehand, those aren't digital. Those weren't animated. Those are because of the film stock. That's the reason why they look jittery if you're familiar with the shooting star shots and Jaws. It just looks fantastic. And being with a shark, there is a particular jump scare when they're looking at Ben Gardner's boat that I know that everyone knows. And I just happened to run into a friend of mine. She was sitting next to me, and we both jumped in the theater. And it's not like the 3D was coming in. It just feels immersive. It feels like you're just wrapped in the movie in this particular. So I want you to go out if you love Jaws, because it's probably not going to be on many more weekends. I would imagine this weekend's probably the last. And spend a few bucks. See it on the biggest screen you can in the best projection. Is the movie completely different? No, but it's just completely different kind of experience. I just loved it. I just loved it. Even though I knew the movie, watching it in 3D was kind of the closest thing I can compare it to is John Carpenter's The Thing's one of my favorite films of all time. I'd never seen it in widescreen until I finally got the DVD in the late 90s. It came out. And then once it did, and I watched it in widescreen because I'd only seen the 3 and 4 on your old TV pan scan. And for some of you all, you don't even know what I'm talking about. You're too young. When I finally saw that in widescreen, it blew my mind because it's a different movie. It's similar to that. It was kind of the same experience. So if you get a chance, spend a few bucks and go out and see Jaws in 3D. Not Jaws 3D. The third Jaws was actually made for 3D, and it's awful, and I doubt that anything could fix it. But the original 1975 Jaws, currently out there in conversion 3D, check it out. I had a blast with it. I really did. And the audience loved it too. They clapped at the end. It was the damnedest thing. So this has been Joe Lewis, Bonehead Weekly. Go out and see Jaws 3D.